aka Bullets, YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Murray Clutchburn will start at pole position for the second race, but then the King would, what does the King do? He would for 477 laps before Klint Shiftright would be out next race because of Sammy Smelter! That's gross! And the King would end up winning the second race, which is good for the King. But for Tim Lugnut, it's bad because he's fired! And Kyle Traxon starts at pole position! Besides, Mill Torquey Pistons replaced him with Ralph Carlo, who actually qualified! And Landis Leakspill, who also qualifies now, out for the season on lap 70 because of a bad crash. But Mark Carton would leave for 195 laps before Ruby Easy Oaks would be out with an engine failure on lap 350. But Ernie Swervin would almost win the third race, but he lost to Dale Earnhardt, who wins his first race of the season, also being the third race. And also, Hall Ingus would start at pole position for the fourth race, but surprisingly, Nick Charger qualifies, and he's 37th as of lap 53, where Ivan Yoder would get flipped 7 times! How does any car flip 7 times? And Paunchy wipeout. Also an airborne in the same crash that was caused by Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. Why? But Ernie Swervin would end up winning the fourth race, which is actually good. But besides, Bill Racelot would start at pole position for the fifth race, where Rudy Wash Tire would lead the most laps with 34. This was a very competitive race. But Chick Hicks would wreck 20 cars, including Bill Racelot. But Chick's brother John does a pit maneuver on Crusty Rotor. But Dale Earnhardt would almost win the fifth race, but luckily it is Jeff Gorvette who will win the fifth race, his very first win. Dale Earnhardt was not actually very upset to Jeff Gorvette winning the race. Larry Smith would start at pole position for the sixth race, but now he's out because of Chick Hicks, who will wreck 14 more cars. But Ernie Gearson would end up winning the sixth race. He wouldn't start at the pole next race. That would be Ernie Swervin, who would start the seventh race, where Klint Shiftright would end up going airborne because of Eugene Karbareski. Oh, but he's also out next race, which is good. But Chick Hicks wrecked Eugene Karbareski. And also Bradley Locke, who's out for the season. And luckily, Ernie Swervin would win the seventh race. But unluckily, Kyle Traxon would get another pole. And he's out because of his rival, Chick Hicks, who wrecked 16 cars. Ivan Yoder would go airborne on lap 79, but Mark Carton would almost win the 8th race. But luckily, the King was the winner of the 8th race. But Daryl Dragger would start at pole position for the 9th race, and now he's out because of Chick Hicks, who wrecks 21 cars total. Since Misty Motocross was one of them, Claude Scruggs had something to say. And WJ Lights would only lose by 4 feet to Larry Smith, who wins the 9th race. The 10th race is started by Ernie Swervin, who's also very good at getting pole positions these days. And Gerald Leadfoot's out on lap 1 due to an engine failure. And Ernie Swervin himself is out on lap 6 because of Chick Hicks, who wrecks 18 more cars. And Kyle Traxon would be for 150 laps? How does any car be for that long? But now he's out because of his rival, Chick Hicks. Why again? Oh, but he's out himself, luckily, because of Dale Earnhardt, who was actually cheered when he wrecked Chick Hicks. And also, Bobby Carboni would win the 10th race. Misty Motocross would start at pole position for the 11th race before Ivan Yoder would go airborne again on lap 5. WJ Lights is out because of Mark Burnsley, who's now his rival. Ryan Shields gets flipped on lap 53 because of Chick Hicks, who will wreck 8 other cars. And Claude Scruggs had to check if Ryan Shields was okay, because that's how bad the flip was. But Ryan Shields will have to miss the rest of the season, unless if he can qualify for the Dynaco 400. But Chick Hicks will wreck 10 more cars, and his brother John will crash Klint Shiftright and Ron Blaster. The King would almost win the 11th race, but he sadly lost to Dale Earnhardt, who will win the 11th race. He doesn't get the pole for the next race. Rusty Wheelhouse does, and he starts at pole position for the 12th race. But Chick Hicks will wreck 11 more cars. Now Winford Bradford Rutherford is out for the season because of Chick Hicks, who's luckily out because of Kyle Traxon, his rival. Paul Ingus would wreck Kyle Traxon later on, but he'd sadly lose to Rusty Wheelhouse, who wins the 12th race. Mark Burnsley would start at pole position for the 13th race, but then Chuck Armstrong would lead the most laps, leading to lap 71 from lap 9, but Rusty Wheelhouse would get flipped on lap 84 because of Chick Hicks, who will wreck 6 more cars, and Buck Schooner would be out for the season. Ivan Yoder would go airborne 5 times on lap 157, once again because of Chick Hicks. Why? But Davey Apex would lead 80 laps, which was more than Chuck Armstrong, and WJ Lights would almost win the 13th race, but in the end, Ernie Swervin wins. Wait! He only lost by 8 feet to Dale Earnhardt, who would win the 13th race. Eugene Karbareski would only barely start at pole position for the 14th race before Andrew Axler, who started second, would lead for 76 laps, the most out of any car in the race. And Kyle Traxon is 4th as of lap 352, where Aiden Blocker is now out for the season! Same with Greg Candyman, who are both sadly out for the season. But Kyle Traxon would be suspended for 6 races because of what he did. Klint Shiftright would end up winning the 14th race. Mark Burnsley would once again start at pole position for the 15th race, but then Jeff Gorvette would pass him and lead for 168 laps, and Rusty Cornfield goes airborne on lap 99, and Ivan Yoder would too, but twice because of Chick Hicks! Why do you make other cars go airborne? And Billy Oilchanker would almost win the 15th race, but now he's out on the very last lap because of Chick Hicks, who wrecked a couple other cars you might have heard of. The King only lost by 5 feet to Ernie Gearson, who wins the 15th race. He'll start in 4th next race, but Dale Earnhardt would start in 1st. But his rival Bill Racelot would pass him and lead for 293 of the 350 laps. Chick Hicks would wreck 31 cars, and he does a pit maneuver on Bill Racelot, which means now he's out, pushing the total up to 32. Chick Hicks would sadly win the 16th race. Darren Ledfoot would start at pole position for the 17th race. Remember, Ron Blaster cheated to get the pole position. So, he charges up to the front and leads for 2 laps before Chick Hicks would wreck 17 cars. And Ernie Swervin would only lose by 8 inches to Jimmy Speedcar, who would win his very first race. And WJ Lights would start at pole position for the 18th race, where he'd quickly lose the lead to Hall Ingus, who leads for 148 laps. But sadly, Chick Hicks will wreck 8 cars, including Michael Karchuk, who went airborne on lap 325. But there's Ernie swerving, who leads for 70 laps. How? But then Jeff Gorvette would take the lead on the last 5 laps to win the 18th race. But Ernie Swervin would get pole position for the 19th race, where Ricky Slood would end up leading the most laps with 65. But now he's out alongside Johnny Blamer, who went airborne on lap 180 because of Chick Hicks, who wrecked 16 cars. And Billy Ford luckily avoided Chick Hicks and almost won his very first victory, but WJ Lights would instead get yet another victory, winning the 19th race. Kevin Phillips luckily got pole position for the 20th race, but sadly, Chick Hicks would wreck 12 cars on lap 238. But luckily he's out because of Kyle Traxon, who would win the 20th race, making it another sad race. Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position for the 21st race. And now Mark Landis has a career-ending crash, sadly, because of John Hicks. Why? But he will be suspended for the rest of the season for what he did. And since Darren Ledford's also the number 82, he'll replace him for the rest of the race. Billy Oil Changer would be out on lap 66 because of, yeah, you already know who it is. And that's what he said. Sammy Smelter is out because of Chick Hicks! Well, Sammy Smelter does stink. Mike Yankee doesn't stink though, but he's out for 9 races because of Jonathan Melcher! Why? Oh, and he's back too. Why? And sadly, Chick Hicks would wreck more cars. Dale Earnhardt would end up almost winning the 21st race, but luckily, it was Hall Ingus who won the 21st race, which is good. What's even better is that Mark Carton got pole position for the 22nd race. What's not so good is that Mac Icar had an engine failure on lap 10. But Ivan Yoder got flipped and went airborne 5 times! And now he's out for the season because of Chick Hicks, who wrecks 12 cars! And Mark Carton would almost win the 22nd race, but Klint Shiftright would win it instead, winning the 22nd race. But Andrew Axler would start at pole position for the 23rd race because of Chick Hicks, who cheated and wrecked 30 cars. James Cleanair is out with 4 to go because of Chick Hicks, who says this: "That's very mean." But Larry Smith would end up winning the 23rd race. And the top 10 doesn't make a lot of sense. Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. would start at pole position for the 24th race, but now he's out because of Chick Hicks. Why do you wreck so many cars? But Greg Locke, he's out, but for how long? Sadly, Greg Locke died. When his tire went loose, he went airborne really high, but then he crashed onto the infield, and he was found dead a few moments later. The King and Mike Yankee noticed, and also the good cars of Larry Smith, Bill Racelot, and Mark Carton also noticed. But his younger cousin, Bradley Locke, also had something to say. Mark Carton would end up winning the 24th race. Sadly, this video would have to end on a low note, because the video is already getting too long.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
I'm sorry this video ended on a low note, but races 25 to 35 will be out soon enough. Oh, and we'll be happier.